Welcome, Evan, to our show today. Thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Hi, Sally. Nice to be here with you.
We've been chatting a little bit, but can you just kind of recap and let our listeners know a little bit about yourself and where you've been and what you do?
Sure. Right now, as we record this, I'm in Singapore, and my profession, I am an executive coach, and I am in L&D, learning and development, for the last 10 years. I also do consulting, management consulting, and I'm also a part-time online visiting lecturer at the EU Business School in Geneva, which is something I started a couple of years ago. They approached me, and I actually enjoy it a lot, to work and develop the younger generation, and I realize it gives you a lot of pleasure. And what I do, I specialize through my coaching and training, as you see on the website. Which part is it? This one, I think this one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
I help executives develop the skills and strategies they need to succeed. Now, what do I need to succeed? Maybe some of those, they want to enhance their leadership skills, maybe improve communication, maybe navigate a career transition, which is quite popular lately. Maybe learn how to engage and mobilize their remote and hybrid team, and so on and so forth. So I do this usually on one-on-one coaching sessions. And the first thing we do, I work with my client to identify their strengths and areas for improvement, and then we develop a personalized action plan to help them succeed. Now, I have traveled quite a bit, I suppose. I like it, and I think you like it as well.
Yes, very much.
And, I grew up in Greece up until high school. Obviously, after high school, I lived in Switzerland for 3 years. I studied and worked there. And then Switzerland is beautiful. Absolutely stunning. But if when you are 20, 22 years old, it's a little bit too small,
Yes, I can understand that.
Yeah. It's one of those countries. I'm actually looking to go back now, because we're relocating. We want to relocate to Europe, either Germany or Switzerland or somewhere there. This is what we are planning to do over the next 3-4 months. But when you're 22 years old, Switzerland is a little bit quiet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yes, but obviously when you are at a different age, you're looking for different things. You're looking for more to relax a little bit. Your kids to go to school. Yes,
yeah. I know completely. It's just part of the life journey where we evolve and change, and we never stay the same. So whether it's changes with work, as what you're doing with coaching people, or relocating to different areas. I've lived in 5 countries now, and I know where I'm at right now is not the last one I'm going to live in. It's great, it's beautiful, I love it, but it is a little bit too small and quiet for a long-term stay for me right now. So I know, and change is good. I think change is good.
Look, I agree. And if in my opinion, to elaborate on what you say, I think, especially with the changes, the psychological and societal changes that are happening over the last couple of years, if you feel that you know it all and you will be here in a change and adaptation, and Charles Darwin, I'm not a Darwinian, but he said that it's not the strongest or the most intelligent of the species that will survive, but the one who is more adaptable to change. And how relevant is that? You have people at 60 years old, they go, I want to change my career. What do I want to do over the next 20 years? And I think this is how the world is going to be. Like, in our generation, we study until 25. Then from 25 to 65, we change 3-4 jobs, and then we retire. I think this finished.
Yeah, I think so too. And in part because, 40 years ago when people were 65, like their life was a lot harder and tougher, and
Yes,
we didn't have the advances of medication and things that we
yes,
just know now. So their bodies were physically older, even though that number may be the same. Where we're 65 now, the physical body of a lot of people, if they're taking care of themselves, is not like it was with our grandparents or great grandparents generation. So a lot of people are living till, close to 100, even some. I'm not sure the oldest person in the world, but I think I recently heard somewhere around 118 or something like that. I could be wrong on that, but it was well over 100. That's for
and
sure.
life expectancy will go up. You will see. I think,
Mhm.
I'm not saying about what I read, everything. I think people will end up living 110 and 120 in the next maybe 20, 30 years. Health is
Mhm.
improving, a lot,
Yeah.
and
And
technology, you
it's
know.
funny. I used to say that to people about 20 years ago. So when I was in my kind of mid 20s, I would say to people, I'm going to live till I'm 120. And every time I said that, people looked at me like I was
Laugh, yeah, yeah,
crazy. They're like,
yeah.
there's no way. And I said, you just wait and see. People are living till their 80s ish now. And I have a medical background, a little
Right, do
bit.
you? Yeah.
So yeah. So, and then I was like, I know where they're going with some medicine. I know where it's going. And I can imagine that, if I was, say, in my mid 20s when I said that, by the time I got to be 100, like that's almost 75 years of advancement that can take place. So I just said, it's possible. And everybody thought I was crazy now. Now they're realizing I'm not so crazy, that it is possible.
Like, I don't know if you have been to China, but technology there, as we speak, is in a totally different level.
Mhm.
Yesterday, actually, coincidentally, I was watching a documentary, and in China, they have these things now where it's like an online robot doctor, where you put your face in front of that machine, is reading your body, is telling you your temperature, then you put your hand, and it's telling you your hydration percentage, and then
Wow.
it's giving you a very fast report of what you need to drink or what you need to tell it. You're hydrated, you lack that vitamin. And next to that machine, there is there is a vending machine where you just buy vitamins and natural juices.
Wow.
So the machine is telling you, it's like an instant report. It's like
Mhm.
10 minutes. You scan your hand, and it's reading your body, and it's telling you you're hydrated. You need to drink vitamin C. And then next to it is a vending machine
And you get whatever you need right there.
right
Yeah.
there. So it's unreal.
Yeah.
And
And so that's amazing. So for somebody who's saying at 65 now, what am I going to do? I'm going to change careers, go back to school, learn something, do something different. It makes sense, because even if you're going to live to 100, like that's still a lot of years. I was talking with somebody the other day, and
mhm.
he said he never thought when he was younger in his 20s or 30s that he would have done it. But at 47, he went back to school to become a lawyer, and
Fantastic.
he finished
It's
it at
beautiful.
47. He started, he said, I never would have thought in my 20s, even in my 30s, never would have thought that at 47 I would go to law school.
It's perfect. I,
So
I
there's
absolutely love
always
it because it's kind of, you live again. You live your
hmm
youth again. I absolutely love it.
yeah.
um for me it's great. I mean, I like to learn. I think I'm a life learner. I don't like to feel stuck. So I think it's great, but I think a lot of people cannot really accept that, and you know what, if we live until 100, no government wants to pay you pension for
No,
that 50
they can't
years.
afford to.
They
They
can
can't
afford
afford
to, yeah.
to. And because I was just reading also the other day, I was reading an article about how in most Western countries, most of Europe, North America, Australia, all of that, even Japan and actually China as well,
Yeah.
the birth rate is reducing dramatically in some of the countries and a little bit. But China last year was the first time that the birth rate had
Yes.
dropped. And I think Japan was number one with like 1.2 births per couple. And then there's a few countries that were like 1.3, 1.4. So the birth rate is going down. So if the birth rate's going down and we're living till we're 100, The government
Yes.
can't be paying us. It's not going to work.
Japan has a problem. Japan has an aging
Yeah.
population,
Mm-hmm.
and they are looking for people to take care of the elderly, and they're afraid that the generation will be lost because
Yeah.
they will sacrifice their life to take care of their parents.
Because that's part of their culture.
It is.
And so, and that's why they're not having kids. It's because the grandparents would take care of the kids. But now that the grandparents are getting substantially older, they're not able to. So now it's, well, we can't have kids. We don't have the help. Now it's reversed. We need to be taking care of them.
I
So
think
there.
the region, yeah, I think in Africa, this is the opposite of what we're saying. I think the birth
Mhm.
rate is increasing in Africa.
It is increasing there. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a few
Yeah.
places where it's still increasing and it's still fairly high, but then
India,
that's more the rural, from the article that I read anyway.
yeah,
There was that's more of like the rural places. So even in the large cities in Africa, they're seeing a decline. There's still a lot more. There's still some having 4, 5 children per family, but that used to be 7 or 8. So the
yes.
cities are still seeing a decline, but they're at least having more kids and still, contributing to that growing population.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So yeah, after Switzerland, we made a big break. I went to UK. I did my
Mhm.
MBA. I lived in the UK for around 8 years.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, after graduation, I worked there. I ended up being a branch managing director of a company. I was managing 2 offices at the time and around 75 employees. And then I did this up until 2011, 2012.
Oh,
And then, yeah, and then after that, I lived in Australia for 5 years and Cyprus a little bit. Um, I worked for a financial brokerage. I was headhunted from the UK. So living 8 years in the UK, I miss the heat and the sun a little bit. So
mm-hmm.
yes, and yeah, right now I am in Singapore. I'm not sure if you heard some sound. They still have Chinese New Year fireworks.
Oh,
Uh, I'm not sure if you could hear
I
them. You
didn't
might hear,
hear it. I didn't hear it though.
yeah,
No.
you might hear some more. And yeah, so with my work over the last couple of years, it has been challenging because, especially the first year, because I had to shift everything online.
Mm-hmm.
Before, me and my clients will meet in their office, my office, coffee shop, and we will work like that. But after, it's like, wow, how do we change
Had
everything
changed.
online?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it worked well at the end because now I can actually, it's giving me the chance to have clients. Like, if me and you we probably wouldn't do that right now, right? What we're doing.
Right. Right. It's
So
given more opportunity. And as you're saying, you're thinking of relocating again, you can still keep your clients there or even grow and have more clients all around the world, within reasonable time zones, because
yeah,
when
that's
we
the only
time
that
zones are the issue.
that's the only issue, actually.
Yeah.
This is the only issue, is the time zone. I mean, if you're in Europe, unless you wake up 3-4 a.m. in the morning to work with Australia, it could be done, but it's a little bit challenging. But yeah, and that's the only issue. Is It's quite strange because I think with the pandemic, it two-way. I think it went right.
Mhm.
Companies now, you can actually expand. If you're doing this kind of services, you can expand your company globally
Mhm.
because client will tell you, I don't need to see you to trust you. There is another way to build trust. You can hire people globally. Let's say if you have a company, you can
Mhm.
hire, especially customer support, live chat agents. You can have in India, in Mexico, in anywhere you want, really. But also at the same time, with travel, some companies, like if you are in the F&B sector or if you are in the hospitality industry,
Mhm.
they target more locals now. I see, like, in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, people are traveling in their own country. They are becoming tourists of their own country.
Mhm. Which
And
is very interesting because I'm in the tourism industry as well as I do travel writing and things,
mhm,
and I mean I was one too before the pandemic. I didn't do a lot in the country that I was living in. I would do some, but even coming from Canada, I've seen some of Canada, but not all of it, because it was better to go to a foreign country than stay in Canada on holiday. And
I
now,
understand. Yeah.
as we said, there's been that shift that people are more tourists in their own cities. And it comes back again to, as we said earlier, it's that adjusting where the strongest ones, or the ones who will be the most successful, are the ones that are able to pivot or change a bit or work within whatever the world kind of throws at us. And that's some of those silver linings from the pandemic, is working from home, remote working, how we've been able to adjust depending upon the industry that we're in.
I think it's a mindset. The most difficult to change is the mindset. This is
Mhm.
what I think, because most people used to work and used to live in the environment. Okay, I've graduated, I have my work. Even though I may change jobs every 3, 4, 5 years, not major things are changing. But now it's kind of a shock, it's like, and as you said, I think, I don't know if it was, did we record that your friend studied to become a lawyer at 47 years old?
Mm-hmm.
I think psychologically, that's such a refresher, because you are like, I know a lot of people that wanted to do something that I never had the chance to do, and now is the chance. Why not?
Right.
Like,
And it is,
I,
I said, that mindset of like 47, part of the brain is like, oh, I'm already 47, to start all over. I'm too old. But if you think of it, for a lot of people, that's not even halfway through your life. Right? If you live till you're almost 100, that's the halfway. And the first kind of 15 to 18 years of life, we didn't work, depending upon when people started. 15 to 18, they may have started. So
yeah.
what we've done within that kind of, from, let's just say 25, to make it easy, from 25 to 50, how much that person has done in a career, he can still do
20
that
years.
again,
Yes, until 75. You're right.
and then still have time to relax and do whatever else that he wants to do.
I see in Asia, more than in Europe, that if you take Uber, for example, the
Mhm.
sharing, in Asia, they call it Grab, because Grab
Okay.
in Asia bought Uber a few years ago. So,
Okay.
but when I'm in Europe, it's called Uber. Anyway, it's called Grab. The car sharing thing.
Mhm.
A lot of the drivers are actually people of, like in the 50s, in the 60s, 65, 70 years old. And sometimes locally in Malaysia, Indonesia, they call them uncles, right? And
Okay.
aunties.
Mhm.
So, and I ask them sometimes if they speak English. Most of them do. I say, yeah, I do it part-time. In the morning, they do something part-time. In the evening, they do something part-time. And some of them are telling me, yeah, because I want to support myself. And some of them are telling me also, what will I do if I just stay home?
Yes. And that is a bad thing. And I haven't recalled anything recently, but I do recall reading something many years ago that statistically, when people retire, if they didn't have already in place like good hobbies, things that they do regularly, their body deteriorates very, very quickly. And a lot of them die quite quickly after
I see
retirement.
that from my parents. My father, every day, they're both retired. My father every day does something. Like summertime, we're busy because we're running a small hotel in Greece.
Okay.
You're in the tourism. Maybe we can talk
Hmm.
offline about that later. And my okay, so my mom is busy during summer. My During winter, she's not that busy,
Hmm.
and she knows Skype now and internet and all that. So, but my dad every day he will go out of that. Every day he will wake up. He will wake up, have a shower, shave, and then go out to do something. It's a little bit like where you are. Go to the farmhouse or go to the town. Do some
Hmm.
do some jobs, because like, even though they can pay their bills online, they prefer to take the car, go to town, go to the bank, pay their bills online, have some coffee or something. But I see
Hmm.
that with my mom sometimes. She just stay home reading the news, and you don't read anything positive in the news.
No, no. The news is, I think, one of the worst things to be reading and watching.
So, I think the world is, and people say 2023, we're going to still see a lot of changes
I
with
think
technology. I don't know. Yeah.
I think so too. And I don't know, as a writer and a bit of a content creator, there's the I don't know if you've heard about it, Chat GPT, that's
Yes.
coming out. And there's lots of these different AI things that it just all of a sudden seems to be, or at least for me, because it just seems to be all of a sudden in my face a lot of all these new things that are coming out. And I don't know, maybe it's just like the Instagram algorithm. I clicked on one thing and it just knew, it's like, start showing her everything.
Yes.
And there's a lot, and there's going to be some big changes. And I know some people, because I also tutor English online for a couple of hours in the morning. And
Nice.
when I meet people that say, oh yeah, I've gone to school, I just finished school as a translator and stuff, I think, ooh, like I worry about that. There's the translator where, if you're in the hospital and you're translating and you're that kind of in-person physical translation. But I know people too that have a lot of jobs that they translate documents, they translate papers and things like that. And not that AI is there yet, but
That will go in 5 years. This online, this will go.
Yeah. And a lot of even article writings, content creating of
Yes.
articles. Now, some things, anything that's new, they'll still need to be writers, because right now the AI just knows everything that's already been put on the internet. So that
Yes,
there's
exactly.
still be some, but a lot of jobs and things that people do are going to, a lot are going to be gone and a lot are going to dramatically change. And so again, that's where the people have to start to kind of pivot again. It's okay, what am I going to do? Or how am I going to kind of be on top of this new technology to still kind of work with it?
It's a bit, yeah. Some of the, like when I go airport, you go Singapore airport, when you're about to check, if you have a luggage to check in, you don't see the check-in counters have changed. So you do it yourself basically. So where it used to be 5-6 counters for check-in with people behind the counter, now they are self-check-in counters with a couple of people behind you, just standing there to supervise in case you need help, in case your luggage is too heavy, in case you're elderly. So basically how it works, you've got your ticket and you scan your ticket on your passport. It's reading your face, you put your thumbprint, it verifies it's you, you put your luggage on the carousel, it's printing out the thing that, I don't know what you call it.
Tag or something.
The tag, yes. You stick your tag, off the suitcase goes. If it's extra weight, you can just pay with your credit card or with your mobile app. You're going through immigration.
Yeah, they're scanning you again.
They're scanning you, and actually, until the time you board the plane and you're welcomed by the stewardess, you don't need to talk to anyone.
Wow.
So,
I haven't quite seen it to that point yet, but I've been seeing lots of the self check-ins, the drop your bag yourself. You may not.
Some companies some airlines that have the technology. They do it, like Singapore Airlines. They have the technology. It's their home base. They do it.
Yeah, well, because it saves them money. They don't have to pay for people. But the problem is then people don't have jobs.
This is a problem, and I think you could argue and say, look, do you want a job? All these jobs, I still think that all these jobs that just require eye and hands to collaborate, they will go.
Yeah.
Because with all the respect, don't get me wrong, but you don't really need a special skill to do this job or to be a checkout supermarket person. So in China, I mean, again, I'm talking about China because technology is at a different level. They're probably 10 years ahead. There are supermarkets that you don't see anyone. Just inside, you only have customers, and you know who you are, and the door opens with your. They know who you are. The door opens with your hand, and they know who is it, and security. And inside the store, it's just customers basically. You put whatever you want in your basket. While you're putting it in, it reads the tag. If you take it out, it's taking it out from the bill. If you want to put it back, or if you change your mind.
That's what I heard. Like there isn't even a quote checkout. Like it's
no one. There's not even security. No, there's nothing. There is not even. It's incredible. There is not even security. Everything is automated. But then again, that might lead into universal basic income.
It could, because somehow, people need to make money. It's interesting to be that it's something that I think we could go down that kind of rabbit hole for
Yes,
a long conversation. And
yes,
I believe there's pros and cons to having
yes.
that universal income, and who knows if it really would fully work. I think some people it would work well for, some people not.
I
um
think it I think it will work well a little bit in the long run. Maybe at the beginning some people will take advantage of it, but I think it will reduce crime.
mhm, I think
I
so
think
too.
it's I think it's even good for families. With sometimes with my coaching that I do, even though it's professional, a lot of clients opening up, and you could have if you're in a relationship that the guy, or if one person in the relationship has the
Mhm,
more money, they can easily control the other person, and a lot of people stay
right,
in relationships because of this. But if
that's
you
right.
have something from the government that is supporting you to live, put a roof over your head and have food,
Mhm.
you could live happier by yourself, and you could get job. How many people hate their job?
Oh, just so many, so many. And they could do
But
what they wanted.
exactly,
They,
because
they
you don't
could
have
they
the
even
pressure of income.
right, right.
I think it's going to happen, but I don't know how and I think in some countries you can see it in developed countries like Germany, in Greece, during the pandemic, even now with the energy crisis, fuel, the
Yeah.
prices are up. Greece is giving some money tokens to support families. It happened in Singapore during the big lockdowns. They were
Mhm.
giving people. I think it happened in the US in some states as well. I'm
Yeah,
not
Canada
sure.
was giving the money away too, like a good
So it's
amount.
like
So,
what is funny. It's like using a humanist social system
mhm,
to support capitalism.
right. Yeah,
You're
and
using
I think generally, yeah, you're right. It would work because if I don't have to worry about paying my bills and I know that they're covered, and it's not to live extravagantly, but just covered, so I have a home, I have food, then I can be, oh, well, I want to create something. I want to
yes,
grow my own
yes,
food 'cause I like gardening. I want to whatever, and I could
study,
do those
yes,
things because I wouldn't have to be, oh, I have to take these jobs and be exhausted and hate my work because I have to pay my bills. So there is good. And I've had people say to me sometimes, they're like, well, there'll be people that take advantage and don't work. And I said, welcome to the world right now. There are in North America, Canada, we have a system where if people don't want, there's some people who can't work, and I don't mean the
yes,
people who have physical, mental issues and things like that that can't work. They need help. But I know that there's a number of people that say, well, I just work in the summertime and I
they
get laid
abuse the
off. I
system.
have my
Yeah, they
summer job,
abuse it.
and then
Yeah.
the government pays them in the winter and they're out skiing and doing whatever else in the winter. So there's already people that kind of quote take advantage of the system. So that's never going to change. But the vast majority of people, I believe, would do things that they enjoy doing and want to do, and they would be happier. And they've done studies that people, if they're not worried about money, they're happier, they're smarter, they're less
Yes,
stressed, and they're healthier.
yes, less crime. Um,
Hmm.
and you say, look, I mean, yeah, the amount will be different. Let's say if you are in Greece, whatever, you will be €1,000 per month, which is food.
Right,
If you're in Germany, it's more expensive. It could be €2,000. If you're in England, it could be £2,000, whatever. But I
right.
think it's gonna happen with technology. We talk about AI, but I
Hmm.
think okay, like what about the developing countries though? Like right now, where I am in this part of the world, a lot of companies have factories here, like in
Hmm.
Malaysia, in Vietnam, in the Philippines, and they employ workers because their expenses are cut in half.
Right.
Um, like companies like Shell, especially in the Philippines,
Hmm.
customer service, like, HSBC banks and all that. But what will happen if I'm a company? If I'm company X, I have all these factories, but with the rise of automation and robots, I can just buy robots and have them at my home country to work 24/7, 365. Like the assembly line.
Right.
Like to make a phone, you know, you have assembly line factories, you know, to put all these things together, you probably need 5, 6 different hands. But maybe in 10 years, there will be robots do that.
That's right.
So how will all these, you know, developing countries cope with the stop of direct foreign investment?
I don't
They
know.
might collapse. I don't know.
But then maybe it would have to be some type of where companies are kind of taxed on a per robot or per something
There will be. There
system.
will be.
And then as it is more of a universal, I mean, it's going to sound crazy and people are going to be like, there's no way that, but we already help other countries when they have floods, when they have landslides, when they have hurricane. Maybe there's some way that this universal income, that some of those wealthier companies who do pull out of those countries, some of that tax dollar also goes back to still help those countries. Do you know?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I don't know how that would work, but there would have to be something.
Maybe it goes back to the environment, corporate social responsibility, or I don't know.
I don't know. And we have to think though too, and also the cost of living in a lot of countries is a lot less. So I mean, maybe, but then if they didn't have to worry about money too, maybe they would be doing other things that they like to do and enjoy doing. And it's yeah, I mean, it would definitely be something that would be transition over quite a time and take a lot of work with a lot of what I would call bumps in the road. There'd be lots of kind of tough ways to figuring it out to what works. But in a way, I kind of do see us going in that direction.
I think so too. Like in Holland now, they are piloting a system where every 3 houses, they will share a car.
Oh,
Car
okay.
sharing, yes. Yeah, that's another discussion. Driverless cars, you know, like that will happen very soon.
Yes,
I think.
Well, there's already been some, I know in the United States, over the last few years that I think it was Domino's Pizza or something that had it and did pizza delivery. So people would even, I guess, scan their phone or their card, pay for the pizza or pay for it over the phone, and then the car would come driverless and deliver the food. And so that's been going there, and there's been a few tests of short, we like the big semi truck driving things, but kind of the short haul, not driving across the United States, but from certain cities to other cities and things. So that's definitely happening.
There are some hotels in Singapore when you go to have breakfast in the morning, they don't have a chef anymore preparing your omelette. They have a robot.
Really?
Yeah, it's quite common.
I've seen robot waiters.
Oh, waiters already have it. Yeah, they have, it's like a hand thing, and you've got all the things in front, and you take your plate and you put in what you want, mushroom, cheese, whatever. You give it to him, he takes it, he cracks the egg, and then he gives it to you like after 5 minutes. So, yeah.
Wow.
So you just have waiters that clean your plate and they refill, unless you go to 5-star hotel, which they still do. Of
course.
But that's another thing that I have seen.
Wow. Yeah. So with I think technology, it's as we've said earlier, one of the best things that we're going to have to learn as people is I'll use the word to pivot, to grow, to figure things out, to try new things, to not, the worst thing would be to stuck in this is what I've done for the last 10 years. And I'm reading
a book from coaching, Marshall Goldsmith, which is probably the most famous coach. And the book is called, the title is What Got You Here Will Not Get You There, which is basically, you can hear my family that just got back. So I think that's the mindset, which is right now is challenging for everyone, because we are in the transition. You know, the transition, it's
Yeah.
could be slow sometimes. And also some companies, you see some companies right now, you know, when we first went online, you know, when all companies suddenly went online, you remember 2020, we work from home, we work in the
Oh yeah.
office, we go back home. A lot of companies bought a lot of software, or they subscribe to a lot of software like Slack,
Hmm.
Monday.com, to keep our people, how do we work. And now that they're realizing that we subscribe to so many things, so they're now trying to balance their expenses, productivity, what we actually need, what we don't need, and what kind of policy things. Now that the kind of dust, it kind of settled down, what kind of policy do we need? Fully remote, hybrid, everyone in the office? Do we allow our staff to choose? Do we dictate the policy? Which softwares do we do? And so on and so forth. So
Right. So yeah, I think now we're at the stage now, and probably through this year, it's going to be a bit of a balancing act, and some of them will have to make the decision kind of depending upon staff. A good friend of mine is a headhunter, and she's has said to me that several times there would be somebody who may be overqualified or maybe makes more money, that they say, you know what, I've heard lots about this company. It sounds great. The atmosphere is good. The way they treat their staff. I hear all good things. I'll come work for less money and have a better working environment, whether it's even if they have to go all the time or that hybrid, but it's just people are now
yes,
wanting a better balance and a better working environment, and the money's not as important, which is great because if we look at all of these studies, like money doesn't make people happy. We need a certain amount, of course. We need to have shelter where we feel safe and secure. We need food, we need clothing, we need that. But what people say they need and the reality is different. Then people start to say, well, I need this, but they start to quote need or buy things to try to make themselves happy, but it doesn't really work. So it's kind of that. Then now I think one of those silver linings too is people realizing working all the time is not worth it. Like if we are in lockdown, if we die, if something happens, what did I do? I just worked my butt off for a company that in
for
5 years
somebody
it just
else.
tossed me out,
Yes,
and,
yes.
and I'm done.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's why, to give you a quote, I suppose, before we close, that's why I call it not the great resignation, but the great reevaluation
Yes,
of
that is better because
values.
in the United States, they've been calling it the Great Resignation, but I like that better. Is the Great Reevaluation, to reevaluate what we want, what's important, what we want to do, and there's another quote, and I think it might be Tony Robbins who said it, that we overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate greatly what we can do in 10 years.
Right.
So it's like we think like, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff this
Short
year,
term,
like the
yes,
whole new
yes.
year, the New Year's resolution. I'm going to do all this stuff this year, and we don't quite getting into doing all of it. But then we don't realize how much that we can actually do in a 5 or even 10 year span.
Yeah, because humans, we are impatient. We want fast, and in some cultures more than others. In Western culture, like we're both Westerners, right? We are more materialistic.
Hmm.
You go to places like India or Tibet,
Hmm.
Bhutan.
Hmm.
I've never been to Bhutan, which is in the Himalayas,
Right.
right? Very
Mhm.
difficult to go now.
Yeah.
They have a totally different meaning of life, and the pleasure of giving and sharing, and
Mhm.
living a totally less materialistic world.
Yes. And it's when we can kind of take a step back, and I really noticed a big change for me when I moved to Costa Rica. I was living in Canada, and of course, all the commercials, all the everything is buy this, buy this. It'll make you happy. It'll make you great. It'll make you the envy of the neighborhood. And don't worry if you don't have money. Visa has you covered. And so, of course, people then get into so much debt because of that. And then when I moved to Costa Rica, even the TV commercials at the time were just for like food or basic kind of things. It wasn't buy this stuff, and there wasn't a need to have more, to make more. They said, I've, I've got a place to live, I've got my stuff covered, I eat, I enjoy life, I enjoy the wonderful weather, and it's good. I don't need to work more. And they have more of that, work to live, not live to work.
Yes, Latin America, Mediterranean, where you are right now, the Southern Europe, it's a little bit different. The things that people value, like this. You lived in Spain, right?
Yeah, I was in Spain.
The siesta, we have it in Greece,
Mhm.
especially during the hot summer months. It's
Yes.
like, it's a must. It's like, you're not sleeping on the summer afternoon. It's like, people's like, what's wrong with you? You're not feeling well.
But when it's 40 or 40 some degrees outside, you don't want to
That's
be
why
out.
I said, you
Feels
don't
like your
want to be
skin
out.
is just burning. Yeah.
So, and they have very late dinner, like summer dinner is at 10, 11 o'clock, right?
Yes, that is still, I push about 6 o'clock. Usually that's because in Canada, dinner's like 5, 6, 7 if
Yeah, of
it's late.
course. Yes.
And so it is a really big difference, but I like to be up early in the morning. So eating at 10, 11 just before going to bed, I just can't do it. Unless I know
Yeah.
it's be out and having dinner and then going out, then I'll have something light or small to just join in with people. But yeah, it's normal for them to go have dinner at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes, yes. And they sleep at 2, 3, right?
Yeah,
Summertime.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So your plan right now, you're in Singapore, you're considering moving back to Switzerland?
Yes. Yes, Switzerland and Germany over the next few months.
Mhm,
Europe is a little bit slow when it comes to business,
mhm.
uh, but the education system is good.
Yes.
If you look at countries like Central Europe, because in Asia is a little bit like it's quite funny. Even in my coaching, when I coach Asian clients, they see you as the father figure. So they don't share too much, like especially, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you are like, even if, and in the school, when I do coaching I have different contracts with different companies, and I have an audience. Sometimes it's a mixture of people. I have Australians,
Mhm,
I could have from Asia, I could have from Europe. You could see the difference. Like,
mhm,
the Asians will kind of stay back, agree with everything you say, and be hesitant and shy to put their hand up.
mhm,
But the other countries are a bit more interactive, which is good for me and good for
mhm,
them, because one thing. But when it comes to school, is the same mentality. Like, I'm the teacher, you're the students. I see you as the father figure. I sit back and you listen. You tell me to jump, I jump, and I don't want that. I want my kids to take a different kind of education system where they are excited to put their hand
mhm,
up, even though they make a mistake, to take initiative.
mhm. And that's how we
And
learn. That's how most of
yes,
our
that's how
learning,
you learn.
because if
Yes.
we learned from other people's mistakes, we wouldn't be making any, but we tend to still make a lot.
Yes, and I don't want my kids to go in a school where they just do things without thinking. Technically,
Right.
they will write down and learn. I don't think these are the skills that a 5-year-old will need in the world that we're describing in 10, 15 years down the
Right.
line. They will need
Not
different skills.
right.
Like,
Back 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, completely different. But now it's more, even I think even Western school has to change a lot to be like,
probably, yeah.
why do I care, certain dates of certain things? Like I can look it up online. We need to be teaching people to think, to be creative, to read 10 articles on the internet and figure out which is true, which is accurate, and which is not. And I think that is more of what we need to be teaching instead of
Yeah.
what day Columbus discovered America. It's like, who cares? You can look it up online. How about which article of this is true information or false information?
Yes, and teamwork, and how to collaborate with different
Mhm,
people, and putting your hand up, not be scared to make a mistake, and learn it again. How, my son. I was surprised at the beginning. I said, no, no, my son will never watch YouTube. But you know how many good things he actually learned.
there are good things from it. Yes.
A lot, like how to count the colors since 2 years old. There are a few good programs. I don't want to say names to advertise, but
Mhm.
he learned quite a lot. And sometimes, now he's a bit older, but when he was 2, he's telling me some things like, where did you learn that? like bigger, biggest, different sizes, colors, floating, seeing, different
Mhm.
kind of theories and thinking. I was quite surprised.
I mean,
So as a parent, I think you still have a little bit of control.
yes, for sure. And I mean, the thing about the internet is it can be as good as we want it to be, or it could be as bad as we want it to be.
Yes.
Because it has both. And there's so much, like, you can learn anything on the internet, literally anything, which is good in a way, but in a way, you can learn some bad stuff too, because you can learn anything on the internet. And
I
so it's
experienced
fine.
that the other day. He came in and he said something, and I said, "Where did you learn that? That's not good to say." Oh, my cousin. One of his cousins is 10 years old.
Mhm.
So, yeah, sorry, I interrupted you there.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, that's okay. But it's true. And then there's times that maybe we should be just watching cat videos and wasting time, but not for hours a day, every day, and then say, "Oh, I'm so busy, I have no time."
Yes, you are right.
Right? So
Yes.
it's using it for the good that we can use it for and should be using it for, and taking advantage of that and learning new things, learning what's going on with technology, trying new stuff. And if you play with something for an hour and then you think, "Oh no, this, I don't like it," whatever, or "No, it's not going to help my business," or what, that's great. At least you learned that application doesn't quite, you don't quite like the way it works, but maybe there's a different app that's very similar to it that you can use, and it can save you some time, or do different things. And I think that's what people need to, in a way, to be playing with different things on the internet to learn, because that's where the world is going with technology, and it's the best place to kind of find it and play with it and figure it out.
Think so. Yeah. Yeah, you just have to be careful though sometimes because
Of
they have,
course.
I mean, they have so much access to information.
Yeah, 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 too much. I mean, yeah, then it comes into what's good, what's bad. Well, what's one a person's opinion to another person's opinion, and it can be a slippery slope down that one. But
Yeah.
but definitely being able and open to, I think the biggest thing from today is, being able to pivot, being able to grow, being able to change with time, because times are changing. And I think kind of when the internet started, it was a big jump, and then I don't want to say we quite plateaued, but over some years, like, there was lots going on. But I think now we're at a stage again where there's kind of another big jump that's going on, and we have to, as somebody said one time, we have to keep up with it and work with it, or we'll be left behind. And we don't want to be in a situation where we're left behind.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. It's challenging for others, especially if you're a little
Mhm.
bit, I don't know, if you're not so much with technology. And maybe some people will decide not to follow. They will form their own communities up in the mountains. It could happen.
It could, oh yeah, it could happen.
It could happen,
I mean, there
their
are
own.
people in the world right now still that don't have or don't use technology. They're remote and they're not around, but it could still happen that people are like, "No,
Produce
I'm
their
okay
own
with
food. Yes. Yeah.
it."
You could
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Like
It's not,
hippie, not
it's not
hippies, but
necessarily a bad thing. Not necessarily
no,
a
it's
bad
not.
thing.
As long as people have freedom, you can decide your own path
Absolutely, as long as it
and
makes
what
them.
makes you happy. Yes.
Mhm. Great. Well, on that note, Evan, I want to thank you very much for your time. And if the listeners wanted to get a hold of you, maybe they're at the point they're thinking, "Yeah, maybe I need a change, I need to pivot, or I'm not sure where I should go, or which direction," what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn, I'm quite active there. If you can Google my name and drop me a message and connect with me, or drop me an email of evan@executivecoachaza.com.
Perfect. And I'll put those links in the show notes as well, so people can have easy access to those.
Lovely. Thank you, Sally. Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. It was great talking with you as well.